In the summer of 2024, I decided to start my own business. At that point, I was 20 years old and I decided also to stop playing basketball, which I had done pretty intensely for the last few years. I landed 2 clients, failed badly for both of them, and almost made no money. Fast forward to today, it's 2026. I've been able to drop out of university and I now live in Spain. And since I've started, I've now been able to build a combined pipeline of over $60,000 for my clients. And in this video, I want to share my journey so far and also some of the lessons that I've learned along the way. My name is William. I'm the founder of Equitas Marketing, where I build funnels for businesses looking to scale, including meta ads, sales pages, and AI automations on the back end. So this all started off with me joining an online community where I had the privilege to learn from a guy that had basically already done what I was looking to achieve. And so, as I mentioned in the beginning, my first 2 clients turned out to be massive failures. I mean, looking back at what I did for them, it's almost like I was doing work more so just to feel like I was productive. But in that moment, since I had such a huge skill gap of where I was and where I wanted to go, I felt like what I was doing was pretty much the best thing that I could do at that point. So I worked on months for these 2 clients and barely made any money. I believe it was in July 2024 where I closed my first client, and around like October 2024, that was when I got my first, like money from a win or from a sale that I'd helped them generate. But fun fact, later I got information from the business that I was working with back then that sale hadn't come from the ads that I was running from them. So it had actually come from pretty much like a referral or a word of mouth kind of thing. But they still paid me like my rev share on that sale that they made, just because they knew how much work that I had poured into helping them without pretty much giving them any results though. But I feel like I'm assuming that they kind of did that because they felt bad for me for all the work that they'd seen me pour into this without getting them any like real results. So I was able to make some money there, but that was like, I believe it was around maybe $50. So it wasn't a lot by any means. But then during the fall of 2024, that's where things started to change a little bit. So I was able to land a church as a client, a church that wanted help with selling out their kind of Christmas musical performance shows type thing. And so they had been, I believe that the previous year, the year before I started working with them, or that I worked with them, in the fall of 2024, they had sold out 2 shows, and during the Christmas musical 2024, they were looking to sell out 3 shows. So I came in to help them be able to do that. And I remember when I took on that project, at first I was like, I know that I pretty much knew that I wasn't gonna get paid by helping them because they're a church, and I just assumed that they didn't have that kind of budget that they were willing to pay for marketing, but more so were looking to basically pour that money back into the church or for like a nonprofit organization or whatever. But I did decide to help them because I felt like I could make a difference and I'd be able to get a testimonial from them, which I could then leverage for future projects, right? So I ended up choosing to work with them, and also because I felt like it was a good thing to do to help a church with that and bring more people to the church. But that aside, that project went well. They sold out those 3, I believe it was like maybe 4 seats left out of all of those musical performances. So 4 or 5. So that did well. I collected a testimonial from them. And a few months after that, I was able to close a massage studio. So that was back when I was studying as well. So the town that I'd been studying in for around a year, I contacted a massage studio there, and I actually went to him, and when I arrived, it wasn't really what I was expecting, to be honest. But he was a pretty cool dude, and I decided to partner with him, even though that might not have been the best decision looking back at it, because he didn't really have all the ingredients to actually be like a long-term profitable client of mine. But that aside, I landed him in November 2024, I believe. And I then started to working on a campaign for him, doing the market research, going through my whole process, and I was able to deliver some results for him. It was like he was in such not a good economic situation that I paid for half of the ad budget out of my own pocket. Because I wanted to help him and wanted to give him a good foundation of actually being able to see some return from the ads that we were going to run. I ended up getting him some solid results, although he did not really believe that I was getting him the results that I kind of showed proof that I had provided him with. So that was pretty much, we just ran that campaign, and yeah, I never ran another project from him. We kind of decided to end it after that. However, I was able to collect a testimonial from him. So that was a win for me. I was also able to get paid a little bit for that project. I believe it was around $500, so not much by any means. At this point, I was still mainly living off of student loans. So I was running my business on the side of school, basically. But then in December, we ran this campaign. I ran this campaign for the massage client kind of during December. But in the beginning of December, that's where I closed what I back then did not know was going to be a game changer for me. So I closed a guy working at a clinic in the town that I was studying in, and by no means, like, he had no problems whatsoever getting customers. Like, he was in a pretty good position in terms of getting customers, but what he wanted to focus on was getting new, or was kind of, yeah, it was to sell another treatment, because he had the ability to sell more expensive treatments. So he wanted to get more ROI of the time that he was actually pouring into his business, basically. So I closed him. The plan was originally to start running those campaigns in December as well, but then we made the decision, or I proposed to him, that we start running them in January instead, because people around Christmas, of course, are spending money. So that might not be the optimal time to get them to invest in a more expensive treatments. And this specific clinic, he works with people that have osteoarthritis. So investing in a more expensive treatment like that right before Christmas probably is not what a person is going to do. So we started running those in January, and that's where things really started to take off, because from that campaign, I do not have the data from that campaign, but basically what he told me is that from the ad budget of $500 that we ran, he got revenue for around $8,000. So that was a pretty good ROI for him. And it was also during this period where I really started to learn more about the psychology of what actually makes people take action and buy, and more so what actually makes people tick. So then after that campaign, I closed him, or I upsold him on another campaign that we ran. However, those next few campaigns did not perform as good, and I had a lot of frustration so this is now in the spring of 2025. I had a lot of frustration here because I was trying to use some of the results that I produced in the past to land new clients, and I was mainly, or pretty much only, doing email cold outreach. I barely got any responses, and looking back at that, like, that's a lesson that I've learned as well, is because I pretty much used a template. So I had a template where I was kind of leveraging or presenting the results that I got, and basically be like, and from what I can tell from you of your online presence, you might have the necessary ingredients to get similar results. So it was a very, very generic message. And if I could go back and change that, I would definitely be more specific in the outreach that I did to those clients, and kind of more so dig into what the problems that they might be, or that they might have experienced, what those actually were, and lower the volume but increase the specificity. So they felt like I'd actually taken time to look into their business and what they were, the challenges that they were actually facing. So that aside, I kept working with my client who's doing the osteoarthritis treatments, and the results were pretty not so good. And so when summer came, I decided to basically stop the cold emailing. I still did some cold emailing, but I really locked in on starting to cold call to land new clients. And I wouldn't say that I got super great results from cold calling, but that was more so, like looking back at it, that was more so a thing for me where I was able to kind of take that fear I had basically around connecting with, like, just calling strangers on the phone. That was a pretty weird thing for me. And so doing that enabled me to basically reduce that fear of connecting with new people that had no idea about me, and that I basically had no idea about them. But what was kind of funny is I believe that during that summer, I did not do a huge amount of cold calls by any means. I believe I landed around 400 maybe. Because then we'll get to that. Then I got my like main thing that I was working on was to tweak some campaigns for my osteoarthritis client that I was still working with. Yeah, but what was funny about that was I believe it was the second cold call that I made. That was a client that I actually ended up closing, and that I have been working with for a little bit, and will probably keep working in the fall due to some circumstances that she's now experiencing, but that's another point for another day. But yeah, looking back at that, like the second cold call that I made, like being super nervous on the phone, and I ended up getting her to book a meeting with me, and then ended up closing her. Kind of a funny thing how the more experience that I got, of course I got better, and I kind of learned to handle some sort of objections. But yeah, basically no experience, just calling and landing a client out of that. Kind of funny in hindsight. So at the end of the summer of 2025, so this is around, what is it, like 8 months ago maybe? No, that would be like 6 months ago. That's where I really came up with a new strategy for my guy at the clinic, because the funnel that I ran for him was, and it's kind of funny looking back at it, because I believe it was ads, opt-in via a contact form directly on Meta, pretty much no qualifiers whatsoever, and then sending them a like email follow-ups, and then from the email follow-ups getting them to book. Like the structure, I don't know what made me choose that structure. I must have been that I felt like that might have been a good strategy, but as I said, like looking back at that was far from optimal. So the thing that changed during the fall was that I basically changed the whole funnel structure for him. So we went from the weird funnel that I just presented to you to ads, landing page, sales page, booking page. And on the sales page, we had a VSL, and the VSL kind of worked as a lead magnet type of thing, because in order for the person that clicked on the ad, landing on the landing page, in order for them to get to, or from the landing page to the sales page, they had to opt in via a contact form. And so this basically became a whole new funnel, as I said, a proper funnel tailored for his situation. And then I forgot to mention, we also had automations on the back end. So all those people that opted in the contact form but did not decide to book, they ended up on kind of in a sequence, an email sequence. So they would get 3 emails, and the last one would be kind of a walkaway email, where we'd basically be like, this is the last email that you will get from me. And if you basically trying to get them to take action. So yeah, that's what you'd usually call a walkaway email in marketing terms. So they would get put in this automation sequence if they did not decide to book. And this was a complete game changer in terms of bookings. I mean, at that point, I was pretty confident that this was going to work, because I had the fortunate thing that, it's fortunate for me, if you think about the results that I was able to create. But my dad has osteoarthritis, so I kind of used him to create the ads and the email follow-ups and stuff like that. So of course, that's not a good thing, but in terms of me being able to help more people to get the treatment that they could improve their quality of life with, it was a good thing to have my dad to basically bounce ideas back and forth and how we could tailor the message even more to the people with osteoarthritis so that my client would get more bookings. So this made fall of 2025 come off to a very good start. And what I did with that client, just for some context, is that I charged him, like if you consider all the work that I did for him and the amount of money that I charged, I believe I charged him like $670. And this was building up pretty much two separate funnels with kind of the same structure, but we were marketing two different treatments. So I was kind of mirroring them and kind of optimizing one funnel for one treatment and another funnel for another treatment. I mean, the amount of hours that I poured into that, I was basically working as a slave, if I'm going to be honest. But I did that intentionally though, because I was not satisfied with the results that I had produced for him on the previous campaigns. So I was like, I need to rebuild the trust that he had towards me. So I undercharged myself on that project, but that laid a foundation for a very good fall in terms of bookings for him and in terms of the results that I was able to create for him. So during the fall, I also ended up closing 4 new clients. One was a yoga instructor, another one was an e-com brand, and then also a construction company and a real estate business. So I actually ended up closing another one as well, like a massage spa, but they were a bit, I would say they were not that good in their communication, kind of slow in responses and stuff like that. So I actually ended up deciding to drop them because I also realized that the amount of money that they were gonna pay me if I were able to deliver results for them was not that good. So I felt like me investing time in building a good campaign for them, it would pretty much not be worth it for me. So I ended up dropping them, and that was kind of maybe not a milestone, but I would say that was kind of a big thing for me, because up until that point, I'd been in a position where I was basically trying to like get clients, but that was the first moment where I was actually able to drop a client due to, in this case, slow responses and me realizing that I wasn't gonna be paid that much if I delivered results for them. And they also had some, I believe they had some, the owner of that massage spa, he was kind of hard-headed in certain situations, like he wanted it done a specific way, and I didn't really agree with that. So I felt like, okay, this might be just a pain in the ass to continue working with them. So I ended up dropping them. And it was also in the beginning of this semester in school that I decided to take a study break. So in the end of, we're going a bit back and forth now, but I believe I dropped this client in October, but I believe it was either late September or early October, that's when I decided to also take a study break. So I was going into my last year studying for my bachelor's in economics. And so my plan was to keep running my business on the side of my studies. But then I was able to land a few new clients, as I mentioned. So I was in a position where I felt like, why not just try to take a study break and take that time and pour it into the business? So I did that, even though the revenue that I was getting from my business was pretty tight, if I'm going to be honest with you. So I actually had a backup plan where I had a company that I was working like part-time with during the summer. So not like with my business, but I was an employee at their company, so as a part-time employee basically. So I had that as kind of a backup plan, that if I didn't get enough revenue from my business to kind of be able to survive on that, then I would have that as a backup plan, as I said, to hop in and maybe take some shifts here and there to be able to cover to cover up for myself financially, basically. And then a few months after that, I believe it was in November late November or early December. That's when I then decided to actually quit university, because at that point I was in a situation where I had got some solid revenue during the fall. And what actually made me make the decision of dropping out of university was that I thought, okay, what is actually the worst thing that could happen here? And I came to the realization that the worst thing that could happen was basically if everything went to shit. Like if everything just did not go to plan. The worst thing that could happen was that I was gonna move back to my mom, live in my mom's house, and potentially pick up my studies or pick up some job where I got the money that I needed to basically survive. So when I thought about that, I was like, there's not, like, the worst case here actually isn't that bad. So after thinking about that, that's when I decided to drop out. And I also, during this period, I had started to communicate even more with a guy that I met through an online community during the summer, and we were talking about moving in together because he also runs an online business. So we felt like it would be a pretty logical next step to move in together and kind of see what that might look like, since we're both in similar situations. So we started talking and kind of plotting potential places to live. So we looked at some different countries in Europe, and we decided that Spain would be a good country to kind of test the waters in. And yeah, I mean, now I'm living here in Alicante, in the kind of the southeast of Spain with him. Have been doing so for it's now a little over pretty much exactly 2 months. And yeah, I just feel I feel grateful to be in this position. I am by no means saying this to brag or anything, but more so just that if you really put your mind to it, and I know this is cliche, you've probably heard this 100 times, but if you really put your mind into something, you could most often achieve much more than you think you could. I mean, if I just look at my situation, when I was cold calling in like August or July of 2025, if you would have told me that in 4 to 5 months you'll be living in another country with a friend of yours who you barely knew back then, I would have probably called you crazy. But looking back at it, I mean, it's incredible what you actually can do if you put your mind into something, or if you put your mind to something and just decide that you're really going to see if this can actually work. So yeah, I moved here to Alicante. It was December 29th, so a few days before New Year's. And when I arrived here, I felt pretty alone, to be honest with you, because I arrived, I believe it was like 12 hours before my buddy. So I had some time here alone first, and I felt pretty lost. I knew that, or I had the expectation that it was going to be a bit uncomfortable, but when I landed here, it was a little bit overwhelming, to be honest with you. But yeah, I mean, life here is overall great, and I'm thankful to be in this position that I'm in now. Funny thing is that around like Christmas and it was around Christmas time, I had a few meetings, or early December, and around maybe the day before Christmas even, I had a few meetings with the business that I was employed at during the summer, because they reached out to me in like November or something, because they had been working with a marketing agency, and this is a recruiting and staffing company. So I was basically employed there or in their kind of staffing department. So they reached out to me. They had some problems with the marketing agency that they were working with, and basically saying that they knew that I was working with some marketing stuff. So they were kind of curious to see if I was going to be able to help them. So I had a few meetings. I believe it was like maybe in the beginning of December we had one meeting, and then the day before Christmas we had another one, and then on January 9th, I'd say, I had another meeting with him, and that's when I closed them on a project. So that was my biggest deal, or that is my biggest deal to this day, and that came around 2 weeks after moving here to Spain. So it's been a journey so far, and I'm grateful for everything that I've learned along the way. And what I would tell you is that if you're watching this, just like there's so much things that you won't have figured out, but just by I could just look at my situation. Like, there were so many times along the way where I basically put myself in a position where I barely knew what I was going to do. Like, I had I had an understanding of what was going to be required, for example, to deliver results for a client. But I mean, closing the client that I'm now working with, still, like the osteoarthritis client, we have a very good relationship to this day, and we're still working together. It's been over a year now. Kind of when I was closing him, I had some idea of what I was going to do for him, but I just had kind of the mindset that I will figure it out. So as I said, like, there's been so many situations where I jump into something and everything's not clear of how I'm going to achieve what I want to achieve. But just by doing it and putting myself in those uncomfortable situations, that's been opening so many doors for me. So I just want to encourage you. I don't know who you are. I don't know how old you are, whether you are 15 or 11 or 50. Like, if you just put yourself in situations where you're not comfortable in, and have the innate belief that you will be able to figure it out, there are so many doors that could open for you. So I just wanna encourage you to have the faith and have the courage to put yourself in those situations. So yeah, this is basically where I am today. It is March 1st, 2026, and I know that I've said this multiple times throughout the video, but I am grateful for the position that I am in. I'm grateful for everything God has done in my life. I wouldn't be here without him. So I'm truly grateful for that. And if you are a business owner and you might have tried ads in the past and it hasn't worked out, or you've been burned by a marketing agency and basically don't have any trust towards people wanting to help you with marketing, I'd love to book a call with you where we could go over kind of your current situation, what's going good for you and what problems you're facing, and we could see if we might be a good fit to work together. So if you are curious to see how we might be able to work together, you could click the link in my description and book a free call with me, or you could DM me the word code on Instagram and I'll get in touch with you personally. You have the Instagram in the description as well. So with that being said, I appreciate you for watching, and I'll catch you in the next video.